The War of the Rohirrim is coming this year, but what's the story of Helm Hammerhand really about? Let's find out. Wes, hi everybody, and welcome to yet another video, my dear friends, and welcome to 2024. Oh yes, we've got a new year as of making of this video. It is January the 1st, and there's a lot in the upcoming year of 2024 that we can look forward to, that we can anticipate, and that we can comment upon. If you look at the screen, you will discover that a lot of websites have started talking about the War of the Rohirrim more and more often, which is, of course, supposed to be yet another adaptation of the text of Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien this time, and I have covered this in some videos on my channel already. If you want to, please do go and search for them on my channel. They're out there. I have covered it. I have covered the news that came out. And while you're at it, my dear friends, if you haven't done so already, please do consider subscribing to the channel of this humble European fella. There is more to come from. And I have stated many times before that I do not really need many adaptations, or rather, I don't need any more adaptations of anything. If you think about it, all that you need is the source material. If you like the world of Professor Tolkien, why not going back and rereading the books? And then rereading them again. And if you want some diversity, quote-unquote, some different genre, why don't you go and read something else, or watch something else, an originally made movie with its own original script? Why do we have to, all the time, under all circumstances, just keep adapting things and making prequels and sequels and rip-offs and spin-offs and things like that? And so I have also said that I don't really like the idea of a Tolkien story being adapted into an anime. And now I think we can talk about anime per se, because this is going to be made by Japanese people, among others. The adaptation and the direction is going to be Japanese. And while I love the anime genre and the manga comic books, I have read some, and I have enjoyed them all, I don't think, in my own opinion, that the world of Professor Tolkien computes and is very much compatible with the style of anime. Now, of course, there will be many more different opinions, many more people that will be saying, for example, the Vinland Saga, the manga and the anime that adapts the manga is about Viking warriors and is in the Japanese style. Oh yes, that is true, and it is on my reading list. However, I stand my ground. I can't really imagine Lord of the Rings or anything coming from the world of Arda being adapted into a manga or anime style that would please my own desires. However, if you look at the screen, they are now, and CBR did this and Screen Run did this, they are publishing their articles saying everything we know about the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim, which of course we know that it is going to be focusing on Helm Hammerhand, or should focus, and that's the problem here. It should focus on the great Rohirrim king, Helm Hammerhand, and his fight against the Vilefrega and Wolf, and basically a war in the realm of Rohan. And it is going to come out at the end of this year. It is going to come out in December. It was supposed to be released in, I think, May, but there was SAG-AFTRA strike, which of course moved the release of the film by a couple of months. So that happened to many films. But, if you're looking forward to it so much, I think you will be able to wait for a little bit longer, and it shall not hurt you very much. And it is going to be voiced by some star actors like Brian Cox, and Miranda Otto is going to actually repeat her role as Elwyn, because she's going to be narrating the story as she was telling you a chapter from Rohan's history, which I think is a very clever narrative technique there, and a way to bring an actor of one of the best adaptations in the history of movie making into something new, and thus bring I think, a lot of fans of Peter Jackson's adaptation. It is going to be, worked on by Philippa Boyens, I think, or Fran Walsh, one of those two women that so masterfully were able to bring the book by John Ronald Reuel Tolkien into the script form. And there you go. The direction will be done by Kenji Kamiyama, who, of course, is known for a lot of famous anime like there you go, Ghost in the Shell's standalone complex, and then you've got some other titles listed. Well, as far as my own experience with anime, my most favorites are probably the Studio Ghibli's genre, Studio Ghibli's films. And then, so there you go. Philippa Boyens is going to be working on it with Kenji Kamiyama. And so, this is all that we know, but I've got a little surprise for you at the end. It is, as we know very well, going to be adapting a little bit from the appendices to The Lord of the Rings, which the appendices have become a center of attention in the last couple of months, thanks to The Rings of Power. And I've decided to read out the part which this film is going to be adapting and put on the screen the respective pages. Now, please do forgive my reading. It is not perfect. It is about 3 pages. I didn't want to edit myself or start over and over again if I mispronounce something or had a little bit of a stutter or a slip of the tongue. But the gist of the video is to just present you with the source material and what this film is really adapting. And so I will just say, enjoy, my dear friends, and when you're finished watching and listening to me reading from The Lord of the Rings, please let me know in the comment down below what you think. And that'll be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here. Of the kings of the Mark, between Earl and Theoden, most is said of Helm Hammerhand. He was a grim man of great strength. There was at the time a man named Freka, who claimed descent from King Freawine, though he had, men said, much Dunlandish blood, and was dark-haired. He grew rich and powerful, having wide lands on either side of the Adorn. Near its source he made himself a stronghold and paid little heed to the king. Helm mistrusted him, but called him to his councils, and he came when it pleased him. To one of these councils Freka rode with many men, and he asked the hand of Helm's daughter for his son Wulf. But Helm said, "You have grown big since you were last here, but it is mostly fat, I guess." And men laughed at that, for Freka was wide in the belt. Then Freka fell in a rage and reviled the king, and said this at the last: "Old kings that refuse a preferred staff may fall on their knees." Helm answered, "Come, the marriage of your son is a trifle. Let Helm and Freka deal with it later. Meanwhile, the king and his council have matters of moment to consider." When the council was over, Helm stood up and laid his great hand on Freka's shoulder, saying, "The king does not permit brawls in his house, but men are freer outside." And he forced Freka to walk before him out of Edoras into the field. To Freka's men that came up, he said, "Be off! We need no hearers. We are going to speak of a private matter alone. Go and talk to my men." And they looked and saw that the king's men and his friends far outnumbered them, and they drew back. "Now, Dunlanding," said the king, "you have only Helm to deal with, alone and unarmed. But you have said much already, and it is my turn to speak. Freka, your folly has grown with your belly. You talk of a staff. If Helm dislikes a crooked staff that is thrust on him, he breaks it. So, with that he smote Freka such a blow with his fist that he fell back stunned and died soon after. Helm then proclaimed Freka's son and near kin the king's enemies, and they fled, for at once Helm sent many men riding to west marches. 4 years later, great troubles came to Rohan, and no help could be sent from Gondor, for 3 fleets of the Corsairs attacked it, and there was war on all its coast. At the same time, Rohan was again invaded from the east, and the Dunlandings, seeing their chance, came over the Isen and down from Isengard. It was soon known that Wulf was their leader. They were in great force, for they were joined by enemies of Gondor, that landed in the mouths of Lefnui and Isen. The Rohirrim were defeated, and their land was overrun. And those who were not slain or enslaved fled to the dales of the mountains. Helm was driven back with great loss from the crossings of Isen and took refuge in the Hornburg and the ravine behind, which was after known as Helm's Deep. There he was besieged. Wulf took Edoras and set in Meduseld and called himself king. There Haleth, Helm's son, fell, last of all defending the doors. Soon afterwards, the long winter began, and Rohan lay under snow for nearly 5 months. Both the Rohirrim and their foes suffered grievously in the cold and in the dearth that lasts longer. In Helm's Deep there was a great hunger after Yule, and being in despair against the king's counsel, Hama, his younger son, led men out on a sortie and foray, but they were lost in the snow. Helm grew fierce and gaunt for famine and grief, and the dread of him alone was worth many men in the defence of the burg. He would go out by himself, clad in white, and stalk like a snow troll into the camps of his enemies, and slay many men with his hands. It was believed that if he bore no weapon would bite on him. The Dunlandings said that if he could find no food, he ate men. That tale lasted long in Dunland. Helm had a great horn, and soon it was marked that before he sallied forth he would blow a blast upon it that echoed in the deep, and then so great a fear fell on his enemies that instead of gathering to take him or kill him, they fled away down the coombe. One night men heard the horn blowing, but Helm did not return. In the morning there came a sun gleam, the first for long days, and they saw a white figure standing still on the dike, alone, for none of the Dunlandings dared come near. There stood Helm, dead as a stone, but his knees were unbent. Yet men that the horn was still heard at times in the heap, and the wraith of Helm would walk among the foes of Rohan and kill men with fear. Soon after the winter broke. Then Frealaf, son of Hild, Helm's sister, came down out of Dunharrow, to which many had fled. With a small company of desperate men, he surprised Wulf in Meduseld and slew him, and regained Edoras. There were great floods after the snows, and the Vale of Entwarsh became a vast fen. The eastern invaders perished or withdrew, and there came help at last from Gondor, by the roads both east and west of the mountains. Before the year was ended, the Dunlandings were driven out, even from Isengard, and then Frealaf became king. Helm was brought from the Hornburg and laid in the 9th mound. Ever after, the white cymbalmine grew there most thickly, so that the mound seemed to be snow-clad. When Frealaf died, a new line of mounds was begun,